All right, friends, thank you for joining this webinar. This is a part of our partnership with the Diocese of Maryland. We're really excited to be beaming into your homes and your living rooms. I'm joining you from my living room in San Francisco, California, and I am really thrilled to be here with you. My name is David Gerhard, and as Dina said in her introduction, I've been the executive director for TENS, the Episcopal Network for Stewardship, for about 5 years now. And we work with congregations all across North America, the Anglican Church in Canada, the Episcopal Church. We have congregations from Miami to Alaska. We just added Nova Scotia as a diocese this week. So from Nova Scotia to Hawaii, we've really got the entire map covered. So, and all of you, including the information you're going to share with us today about what's going on in your congregations, feeds into the network. And we all learn from each other that way. So I'm really grateful that you can be here today. Here's what we're going to talk about in this session. We're going to start with some statistics that might not feel so good to hear about things that are happening in the Episcopal Church related to fundraising and attendance. But then we're going to quickly start looking at the hope and see how we can change those trends. We're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about how to talk about money and faith. It's not innate for many of us to combine those things. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to recession-proof your church finances. We don't know what the fall is going to bring. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring in these news cycles. So we're going to do our best to prepare you for some uncertainty this fall, if there is any. And then we're going to end by talking specifically about this year's campaign theme and the resources that TENS has. But I want to say as a disclaimer or as an additional piece of information that while in fact we'll be talking about the TENS resources that we create, the best practices, the tips, the tools, the ideas that we'll be sharing are applicable to any model of stewardship that you might do in your congregation, not just the TENS campaign, but if you're doing other models. These are good facts and tips to help you prepare yourself and your stewardship committee for anything that you might encounter. So with that, let's move into our session. According to the Giving USA 2024 report, which came out last June, we're waiting for this June's 2025 report, which will communicate the 2024 numbers. That's how that works. But in 2023, the Episcopal Church, that's the most data that we have right now, witnessed a couple of strange things. Look at these statistics, and they seem to be opposite. Well, they are opposite, but let's dig into why that might be. So while the Episcopal Church saw a 5.8% decline in active membership, it saw a 19% increase in Sunday attendance. That's really telling. It says, okay, so perhaps through disaffiliation or death, we've lost some membership at a pretty high rate. We can't afford to do 6% losses in our ever smaller church, but a lot of people are coming and not joining. They're coming to our churches maybe as long-term visitors, but haven't yet become active members, according to the Episcopal Church and its data. So, but look at how many people are coming through the doors and wanting to learn more. That's good news, but it's not yet doing what we need it to do in terms of our membership numbers. Some work there for us. In the midst of that, we got some increases in our finances, which seems like it's good news, a 0.5% increase in contributions overall, and an 8.9% increase in the average pledge amount. That feels like really good information, unless you put it in context with the statistics above. Fewer people giving larger gifts is an unsustainable trend. And we need to think about that. What does that mean for us as church? What does that mean for us as a future? How do we make certain that we're diversifying and teaching the discipleship of stewardship to our youngest members so that they get the message. We can't continue on this trend or it's going to look pretty scary in another decade. Let's take another look at some stats. Over the last 40 years, giving to religion in general in America has continued to be at the top and increase every year. 143, 144 almost $1 billion a year given to congregation or given to religious purposes. That also includes religious schools. But this is temples, mosques, churches, all kinds of institutions. But as a market share, religion gets the largest amount of money and an incredible generous amount of the American charitable dollar. Yet church has seen a 50% decrease in the same period of time in the last 40 years. Uh, Church still gets the largest amount of American charitable giving, but we went from 57% in 1983 to 26% in 2023. This tells us a couple of things. It says that our nonprofit siblings are getting really good at energizing their donors and using advanced tools and marketing to them in a way that gets them to support their institutions. They're also showing the impact of their work. So, social services, safety net programs, arts and healthcare, human rights organizations really showing their impact on the world, impact on the community. And that's helping people who might have traditionally given to the church that did those kinds of programs. It's channeling money toward some of our nonprofit siblings. They professionalized their fundraising. They're asking for planned gifts at a remarkably high rate, more than our churches are, and they're energizing their donors. Some lessons to learn from our nonprofit siblings. That's a little bad news, but let's start talking about the hope and how we can reverse some of these trends. The first way is that we run really good campaigns. We learn from the landscape and we start to raise money in better, more sustainable ways and more inclusive ways, culturally competent ways, ways that look at where our members are and how they want to be reached and how they want to be messaged and how they want to give. So we need to run good campaigns. We're going to talk about all these points as we move through our session today. We want to talk about diversifying the ways that people can give, maximizing donor engagement. The more tools we have, the more methods we accept for people to give their money, the easier it will be. This is called donor-centric fundraising. And we want to make sure that we're adopting some of these low-hanging practices in our congregations. We need to include more voices. Diversity is the future of the church. And so we need to represent and raise leaders in stewardship and at all levels of the church that mirror our diverse congregations, make sure people see themselves in the leadership. And particularly important is turning our attention towards our younger members, our millennials and our Gen Z members. We're going to look at some statistics about them pretty soon. But focusing on volunteer recruitment and learning how they respond. Again, they're coming in to church, often our youngest members, because of the work that we do, the mission-focused work, the way we're changing the world. And that's how they want to change the world. So we need to show them that we're partners and agents of that change. This year, for our campaigns, we need to talk about formation. If the first time people in your church are hearing about stewardship is in October, then we've missed months of possible preparation to plant that seed and talk about all the ways that our congregations are enacting the work, are grateful for the gifts that we receive, and ever more needful of them. Focusing on the mission will help us get through hard times and show impact in our work. We're going to talk a lot today about storytelling and how that communicates our passion, our buy-in to the mission, our understanding of us as ministers. We're going to talk a little bit about planned giving and donor-centric fundraising. I think formation is one of the most important things that we can do to prepare for a good campaign and to start reversing that trend of low energy fundraising that can happen in our church when it feels routine or feels uninspiring. When we talk always about gratitude and abundance and make that connection between God's generosity and ours and show the impact of our work in the world, our members get it. They're enlivened, they're energized, they're excited about that. And we want to do more of that throughout the year. So don't neglect the opportunity to do some teaching, a rector's forum, a between the services chat, a coffee hour presentation, uh, some announcements from the chancel steps, a a sermon on stewardship in the middle of the year when there are no pledge campaigns on the immediate horizon, reminding us that there's always some work to do. He's not on the call today, but if your friend and colleague in the diocese, Charles Clowen, was here, he would say the six most important words in fundraising in church are thank you, thank you, thank you. Where he reminds us that it is so easy to continue to inspire your members uh, with the power of their giving by saying every week, did you like the choir anthem? Thank you for your gifts. Did you like the food pantry experience last week? Thank you for your gifts. Did you love sending those kids on their mission trip? Thank you for your gifts. Every opportunity that we can connect the mission, internal and external, with our giving is a chance for people to get that message that stewardship is the way that they express that, one of the ways that they express that. The TENS material and others that are out there reflect diverse messages of creativity and joy in stewardship. If you're using the TENS materials this year, we focus on uh, creativity and storytelling, people living their faith through their art, music, sculpting, weaving, writing. It's an absolutely beautiful series of God-inspired connection with passion. This helps our members in these stories and the stories that you might tell or that you might ask your congregation to tell. It connects the gifts they've been given by God with the gifts that they can give their community. And this helps them just draw that line under their generosity and their ability to give. Um, the reflections that we offer in our campaign materials also serve as inspiration for stewardship sermons. So take a look at those. If you're wondering how to make a gospel connection between what's being said and what's being done, take a look at the TENS materials and see what we can do. I always suggest that a stewardship committee offer a book study at some point. And I have a great book in mind. My very favorite, Henry Nouwen's A Spirituality of Fundraising. You probably have seen this. If you haven't, please do. I'll make sure I send a link in the materials. You can buy it very inexpensively on Amazon. It's large print and it's short, and you can read it in about 20 minutes. And it's amazing, just full of beautiful spiritual stories about people making the connection between their faith and their support of their faith and mission. Great thing to do a book study on, a great tool just to help people remember that formation is really important and their stewardship is gratefully accepted. Your members are inspired by your mission. They might care about the budget. They want to see the church succeed. But what they really want is for the church to enact its purpose in the world, to get out there and get out of the church and do the work that God has commissioned us to do. So this year, make certain that you are focusing on what you do with the money that you raise, the ministries that you're blessed to be able to offer your community. And don't forget about your internal ministries as well, right? It's not just about what we do with our neighbors, it's also about how we love ourselves. Your pastoral care, your knitting group, your book club, your baking group, those people who meet throughout the week or monthly or whatever and do the internal work of community building and support for each other, those are also ministries. Sometimes we forget to name the things that happen in our church because we overlook them. It's not just what happens outside, although that's also very important. Highlight the impact you have on your community. If you have a food ministry, talk about how many people you feed, not just that you do it, but that you feed a number of people. This is where they come from. This is the nutrition we're able to give them. These are your gifts at work in the world. If you stuff backpacks every year and give them away to at-risk students, what's in those backpacks? How many did you give away? How many volunteers did you use? Where did you get the stuff? Was it donated? Did people have to buy it? Things like that. The stories that you tell about your impact, and then if you could ever collect either from your volunteers or even program beneficiaries stories back, it helps your members understand what their gifts did in the world. You want your members to remember how they directly and indirectly serve their neighbors. That's our essential mission as ministers of the church. And so we are connecting with that mission, that baptismal covenant, whenever we do this work of supporting our neighbors. Testimonials are such an authentic and beautiful way to communicate impact for members to tell their story from peer to peer. So it's not leadership top down reminding us, it's our membership from within talking about why we're grateful for the church or a particular ministry. I like to give a little script to people and ask them to riff off of an idea before they do a little testimonial. Maybe you do these during your stewardship campaign. In my church, we call them minutes for mission, but you might call them something else. We have people stand up at announcement time and talk about things. We give them little cues or prompts to answer, like, why did you come here? And why did you keep coming back? Or what's your favorite program or ministry? Asking somebody to tell that story will automatically connect their passion to the place. And then that helps us remember why we're here, why we're doing this work. I love asking parents, what did your kids talk about from Sunday school? Did they learn anything? Did they talk about it at Sunday lunch or at the dinner table? Like, what happens? What do our children teach us about the experience they have in church? Asking a parent to tell that story about their child to the community often presents really beautiful stories and helps us connect our youth ministry, our family ministry to the work that we're doing. We all want to tell or perhaps remember a time that the church was really there for us when we needed the church to be there. Those stories can be deeply personal, super emotional, really important to tell. So ask people some of these prompts, and it will unlock their generosity and their ability to describe how much love they have for the place. And that love is infectious, why they want other people to love it too. Hmm. I was talking earlier about ministry impact reports, the way that we bring stories from our ministries back into the congregation to remind people about the impact of their gifts. And so it's really great if we can ask program beneficiaries, sponsors, volunteers, members, what the program means to them, what is the joy they find in serving on that guild or that ministry or that commission. Yes, even commissions can be joy-filled. So remind people that there are great things that can happen. Don't overlook the committee meetings and things that people also sign up for because that's important work of the church too. What makes people feel good about a program or a ministry? Why are they proud of it? What that might they share with a work colleague about things that they did at their church? You know, those kinds of stories help us with that first point I was making about our nonprofit siblings connecting impact with their membership. We need to tell those stories. And I think we're weirdly modest in church about wanting to share the abundance side of our good news. And there's great abundance. We do so much work that's good in the world, and we need to talk about it more. And let's be clear, our communities are suffering right now. Our world is a scary, interesting place, and the world is going to need more church as there are fewer safety net services out there. They're going to rely on church in a way that they might not have in other times. And so the urgency for this message and this year's stewardship campaign is there. We have to do this work. We're called to do this work. We're called to be present, even when the times are tough. This is your reminder that your campaign should have a soft ask or a reminder for planned giving. If you use the TENS materials, our pledge cards ask the question, have you left the church in your estate plans? Would you like more information on how to leave the church in your plans? Just those questions remind people that planned giving is one of the opportunities, one of the ways they have to give back to the church, and one of the ways that they can make gifts. You don't have to have a huge campaign at your stewardship time about it, but just reminding people that the church was built through planned gifts, that its endowment is sustained through planned gifts, and that endowment has real impact on program and enables those ministries to continue. It's a good time to do it at your pledge campaign, I think, because a lot of members will see their planned gift as a way to continue underwriting their pledge in perpetuity. And I think that that's a beautiful way to think about a planned gift. When I am no longer able to make this gift, how can this gift continue to sustain my church? Planned gifts don't have to be huge. They don't have to be millions or billions. You don't have to add a new wing or create something that has a plaque on your name. Very modest, very beautiful, very faithful planned gifts are the cornerstone of a church endowment and go a long way to helping us remind ourselves that our gifts are the totality of our giving throughout our lives and into our next steps. By now, I think every congregation has a way to make a gift online. And if you don't, investigate that quickly because you're quickly falling out of step with with the trend, with the way the world is. If I were to come to your congregation this Sunday, which I'd love to do, you wouldn't get much from me as a gift if the plate passed by and my only option was to put cash or a check in it because I don't carry my checkbook and I have, the same $20 bill in my wallet that I've had for months. I don't go to the ATM because then I spend the money. I use my phone or my debit card for almost all of my purchases. And I'm not alone. There are many like us out there. And so make certain that your church has a way for people to make their pledge, pay their pledge, and for visitors to make a gift in an online capacity. I've seen so many creative ways. Um, Now it's almost standard, I think, for a lot of congregations to put a QR code or a link to their donation page right in their bulletin. Here's the offertory anthem, and here's a little QR code. If you'd like to make your gift, we know you have your phone. It's probably easier to access than your wallet anyway. So pull it out and use it to make a gift. I've also seen congregations create a little laminated card to put in their pew rack. And that's a good way to just have that information there and have, a link go to your donation site. That way, your visitors can participate in your offertory, in your giving. When all the gifts are collected and brought to the altar to be gathered, blessed, broken, and shared with the world, your online gifts can be a part of that as well. I spoke earlier about donor-centric fundraising. And that sounds jargony, but what it really means is saying accept as many ways as you can for people to make gifts to your congregation because pledge and plate is great and we'll always accept that, but that there are so many other ways that people in our modern complicated economy use to make gifts. Folks living from retirement assets likely could use their required minimum distribution to make a charitable gift to their church, or they could make a qualified charitable distribution right from their retirement account to the church. There are tax-wise reasons that are really smart for them to do that. And so if your treasurer doesn't know how to accept a qualified charitable distribution or what to do if that check or that letter arrives from a retirement account, your diocesan finance office will have information for you and can share that. Ken and Dina can share that with you. Make certain that your treasurer has the information. Same is true for donor advised funds. Some people do their charitable giving by putting their money into, it's almost like a community or a family foundation, and they make grants from it. And they can renew that account annually, maybe with stock or whatever they choose to renew it with, and then they make gifts like that. Uh, Donor advised funds are an increasingly popular way for people to pay church pledges and make gifts to special needs in their congregation as well. Of course, you can use your bank's bill pay option. A lot of people choose to do that. You set it up to send a check every 2 weeks or whatever. It could mirror your paycheck auto deposit, and your bank just cuts a check to the church and it just goes out. So that's so easy. Take advantage of that. It's free. There are no transaction costs with that. That's an amazing thing. So it costs the church nothing, it costs you nothing. The bank, well, they get their pound of flesh in other ways. So take advantage of that. And absolutely have an online portal as we talked about. TENS has 2 webinars in our webinar library on virtual giving. They talk about the most popular or common platforms for giving out there and the pluses and minuses, the costs associated with them. Check those out. And if you need even more information, if you haven't implemented a solution yet or you're unhappy with your solution, give me a call or go on our website. We have a special deal with Vanco where they give you a 50% discount on your setup fee and all that. And Ken and Dina has more information.
Yes, there's a link to that Vanco offer on our diocesan e-news. So you might have seen it there, and you can always find it that way in your email inbox. I've had a lot of questions about it, so I put it in the diocesan e-news.
Great. Thank you for getting that info out there. It's a perk that we can offer because of our partnership with Vanco, and all of our dioceses get to give that as well. So it's a good deal. Check it out. Finally, some people make gifts through stocks and securities. I don't know what this market year is going to be like. Some people might have some appreciated stocks out there, stock options that they would like to give. That's a perfectly fine way for people to make their gift. If you don't have a broker set up, I bet Ken and Dina knows where you can have the diocese help you in clearing a stock gift.
Absolutely. And that's available if you just search in the tab on the diocesan webpage or go into the resources. I'll put a link in this chat box so folks know
Okay.
how to find it. or call me.
or call you because that'll
Yep.
be more fun anyway. Great. So lots of ways. What am I saying here? I'm saying that the more opportunity you give people to make gifts to your congregation, the more creative they'll be in finding ways to give to you. And it's not just, checks and cash, they rely on what's in your bank account right now. Some of these other means rely on other sources. And so if people are having some income variance right now, there are other ways that they can make their gift and still stay with their commitment. Know that and help people, give them the tools. I did this webinar with the Diocese of Spokane a couple of weeks ago, and some guy pulled out like a full page sheet that he got at the symphony of all the ways you can make your gift to the symphony. I'm like, great, they're doing that. And it was like a really succinct, like, use this for that and do this for this. Here's the link for that. It was a thing that they did for their members that they gave everyone who came in for the performance, right? So, people are doing this, and it's a great way to help our members understand that there are lots of ways to give, and we're catching up on the ways that we can accept that. All right, I want to move from some of these tools into starting to talk about how we talk about money in church, because it's not a skill that we're all born with. And I think I know our culture has some real taboos on talking about money and faith. And then we combine the two and we really get messed up. So, how do we talk about, how do we make the ask? How do we talk about money in church? And I've given these four scenarios as a starting place to help you think about language or approaches you might use in crafting your talking point or your pitch to someone. This works if you're doing an every member canvas or the Pony Express method, where you go from house to house and pass it along. If you're doing any kind of face-to-face fundraising, these are great starters. Or if you're writing emails and letters and things like that, these are great starters as well to inspire you in thinking about how you might approach someone. Here's what they all have in common. It starts with who I am and why we're raising money in our church this year, where it's going for. That's really important. People want to know where their money's going. And then it ends with the call to action is, will you join me? And this is the most important thing, I believe, in church fundraising and in stewardship, is that we make our gift first. I would like for every vestry, stewardship committee, and clergy to start off on kickoff day of your campaign with 100% of the leadership already having made their pledges, so that you can say the entire leadership of this church is behind this campaign. They've made their gifts. And then when you go out and you ask people, you're asking them, will you join me? Which is so much more authentic than, will you do this thing I haven't done yet? I haven't made it a priority for myself, but I'm asking you to. So don't do that. Ask people, make your gift early, and then ask people to join you. And that's a very authentic, beautiful ask. And people feel that connection. So when you're asking people to renew, here's some language you can use. When you're asking people to increase, maybe your finance committee has said we need to raise 10% more this year. What can we do? Go on stewardship committee, make it happen. What are some skills you can use in that? You talk about why I did this. I was able to make a stretch gift this year. It's really important to us. And now I'm asking, will you be able to do that? Would you join us? So again, it's reminding people what you're raising it for. I've done it. Will you do it? Uh, this next one about it being a tough year is a reminder that everyone needs to be asked to participate in stewardship, even people that you think might not be able to make a gift or that have had a hard time in the year. Don't make the decision for them. Don't don't take away their opportunity to participate in stewardship. They might not give the biggest gift or even the gift that they gave last year, but they still deserve and the honor of being asked to join. And they'll give you their answer. Yes, no, this or that. Whatever it is, it'll be a thoughtful answer because you've approached them thoughtfully and respectfully. So even when you know someone has had a really bad year, please don't cross them off your stewardship list. Ask them and they might surprise you. And finally, I want to remind us that our newcomers need perhaps a little more information about giving than our regular members. They might not know how we create our budget or our process, our congregational process in creating and funding that budget. So show them some pie charts about how your money is raised and where it's spent. Give them some information about this is where our members' giving falls. Use that steps chart, where you talk about ranges and number of households, where you can say, look, here's the spread of giving in our congregation, and they'll do the math in their household budget and figure out where they fit on that chart. Give them some tools. Don't just assume that they know that they're supposed to give. Don't assume that they know what they should give, right? They might just say, well, I'll give $500. Maybe they could give 5,000, but they haven't been given a starting place yet. So give them some information about what your church does and what it does with the money and um, why they could join it. Please don't wait a full year. If somebody joins your congregation at Christmas and they've just missed the pledge campaign, don't wait a full year to include them in next fall's stewardship. Find the time after you've seen that they've started coming back 6, 8 weeks to give them a newcomer packet and make certain that they have information about pledging and would they like to. If you lose a whole year with them, then they're not fully participating in the life, and they've indicated by their attendance that they want to. So give them that opportunity. They can make their own decision. Hopefully, this helps you with some strategies, some ideas. We can do this. We can talk about money. It's not scary. People say yes in church. They're not going to slam the door on you or walk away from you. They're not going to ruin a friendship by asking people to participate. If they can't do what you're asking them to do, they'll be pretty honest with you. It's not a hard situation. It feels hard because we have our own doubt about it, but it's not. People will give you respect and honor just as you give them. I want to give a couple more tools before we get off this section and share with you some ideas on appreciative inquiry. This is another way to unlock people's giving and their ideas. It's focused on creativity and providing solutions. Appreciative inquiry takes what we have and builds on it, and it doesn't look at what we're missing and focus on it. So it is a great way to start a conversation about supporting a congregation or our mission because it looks at our assets. This is where our whole asset-based community development work comes from in the Episcopal Church. This appreciative inquiry idea that we have enough, it's already there. We just need to harness it and understand it. So some appreciative inquiry style questions that are related to stewardship. Take those weekly reflections that we give you. Each of them has a couple of wondering questions at the end. Open-ended, there's no right answer. They're designed to get people to think and talk and have dialogue. So those are great starters for a conversation about stewardship. I also like, tell me what ministry is most hopeful, is changing the world that you want to be a part of, that's really exciting. Unlock their excitement through that storytelling. I like the question, if money were no object, what would you do? Would you build an orphanage? Would you create a new hospital? Would you, like, if we could do anything? And then we'll start to funnel it down into what we can do. But the idea is let's start from our assets. Do we know anyone who's doing that work? Can we partner with someone who's doing that work? You really want to have an after-school program? Is there a school nearby? And you could start working together in some small ways. It generates that kind of creativity when we ask appreciative inquiry-based questions. And those questions about partnerships are really important. I love us Episcopalians, we Episcopalians who think that we can do it all, but we can't. And so we need partners, and we need to find good partners in our communities who are also doing good work, even if they're from another church, and partner with them. Ask them how they're doing it. How can we help? If they have a great ministry and it's attracting people, we don't need to start a competing one. We can ask how our members can support them and join them and feel good about that. If there's a school or a nonprofit, a community center nearby, and there's an obvious need there. It's a great place to start a partnership. We don't have to build and reinvent the wheel every time we want to get a new ministry project up and off the ground. But sometimes we do. Sometimes we want to engage that, and we have the gifts and the expertise all ready to go. Great. That's what asset-based development is about, knowing what you have and what you still need, and finding the match there. Finally, I always like to ask people, what else are you willing to share? Thank you for this generous gift you've made to the campaign. What other things do you do? What are your hobbies? What are your skills? Do you know languages? Are you a great baker? Do you love to knit? Are you a gardener? Like, what can you teach us? What can you help us with at the church that would unlock your passion and not just make you feel like we want you for your checkbook? We want lots of things from you. We want lots of ways to participate in your life and you to participate in ours. What are the great things that you might want to lead or participate in? Whenever we have these difficult topics, let's make certain that we are providing space for people, knowing, when you're talking about money with people, you're talking about the rest of the stuff that comes along with their money, which can be scary things and joyful things. It can be hope, it can be failure, it can be all kinds of things that we heap onto our money. So make certain that there's a safe place for that. Know your own boundaries and know when it's time to involve the clergy in a conversation, but also know that you have space and you can hold things that people say. We treat conversations about money in confidence, and people should feel that they can approach you. You're having the conversation. Don't talk about, everything is fine in the church finances if it isn't. Dwell on what's possible, get people out of the hard place and into the positive place, but don't put our heads in the sand either. So I think this year we're going to have some challenges. I want to talk a little bit about it before we finish and end with some questions. I want to talk a little bit about some challenges that might be looming on the horizon this fall. Let's talk about how we communicate about money when there are disruptions or economic stress in our community. Perhaps our households are experiencing pain. Last year, I had a conversation with someone in November who was finishing her stewardship campaign in a congregation in Washington, D.C. She said, my members are really scared about making gifts. They're uncertain if they're going to have their federal job, what's going to happen. And then she called me a month later to say, it's really bad now. They've lost their job. They're selling their home. They're leaving the district. I'm losing members and stewardship along with it. So we understand that the world is in a changing place right now. How do we continue to do stewardship even in the midst of this? Well, let's remember that there's no shame in pledging less this year than you did last year. So every gift matters. You don't have to maintain something for social standing. We want you to participate at a level that meets your household needs and allows you to feel good and able to do the other things you need to do with your finances. But conversely, let's remember that not every family experiences the economy in the same way. Not everybody might be struggling at the same level, depending on how they receive their assets or how they get their money. They might not be in the same situation as others. So there's no one size approach to this fall stewardship campaign. Some people might be struggling, some people might not be. Let's focus on everybody making their best gift and asking them to participate in the ways that they can. I like to make certain that I run my list past the clergy before I ask people for their gifts. And they can tell me, maybe go gently with this one, or, they don't have to give me any and shouldn't give me any information that I don't need to have, but they can sometimes give me a heads up or help me understand what I might be walking into. That's really helpful. Conversely, if I learn something in those conversations that I think the clergy should know, I might say, may I talk to our priest about that? Or may I share that information? Or I encourage you to, because it sounds like there's something going on here that you might benefit from a pastoral conversation, and I'm not that person. So it's a two-way street with that information. Um, What I said earlier about the church being a church of hope and that the community needs us when times get tough is absolutely true. I think as we move through this year and we might see social safety net programs cut at state or federal or county level, church safety net, food security, health clinics, things like that, they might be very important in our community. So we need to step up, and that means whatever it means for us, rolling up our sleeves, doing more work. The work of the world will be more acute when there's suffering. Well, how do we talk about the stewardship campaign if you're actually facing budget cuts or your congregation knows there are looming staff reductions or program cuts or things like that? The information's already getting out there. It's still the stewardship campaign. We still need people to be generous and responsive. How do we raise money in this environment? Again, let's remember what our mission is and stay focused on that. So if money isn't the way that we can accomplish this work, what are the ways that we can accomplish this work? Does that mean more volunteers? Does that mean more in-kind gifts? Does that mean we need to, find some other sources? We're going to talk about some of those in the next slides, but know that it's not a done deal for stewardship. It doesn't mean it's over, but we need to be honest and transparent. Yeah, the numbers you've heard, the things that the finance committee is reporting on, they're right. We're going to be facing a tough year. We're not going to lie about that or hide it from you, but we're going to say we still need to press on. Um, does your diocese or your congregation get any outside support? Have you appealed for assessment relief or any other sorts of aid programs from foundations or from the diocese or from other things? And even if you received a no, saying that you did that work shows the congregation that it's not just on them, that all the leaders are pulling together to try and fund this, to try and save this program, to try and do this work. And speaking of that, your clergy or vestry might have a particular donor in mind that they've been waiting to ask, because the roof is going to need replacing in a while, or, whatever. And they've been waiting to ask someone for their large gift, and they haven't yet because that program hasn't come or that need hasn't arisen. This might be the year. Saving a program or a staff position might be the right call to harness that donor and ask them to participate. If you have one of those donors, and we do, it's a one-shot gift usually, but this might be the time. Know that, discern that, work on that with your clergy and your vestry, and make certain that it makes sense. But there might be someone out in your community that can help you. Finally, how do we talk about stewardship when times are uncertain? When people say, I'm really uncomfortable making a pledge for all of 2026 when I don't know what my 2026 is going to look like. I might lose my job. I might have to move my, whatever. Well, this is not new. Christians live in uncertainty. We were born out of it, literally born out of uncertainty, and we have come through this in 2000 years. We've figured out a lot of theological coping mechanisms and community building ways that we get through uncertain times together. You can also change your pledge, right? These aren't contracts. We don't sign them in blood. If you need to change your pledge because your circumstances changed, it's so easy and there's no shame. And your treasurer or whoever administers your campaign, you just tell them, this is what I'm going to do this year. This is how it's going to happen. And they just change a number. And that's okay. It's okay. There's no shame in that. We need to communicate that. So we'd really like you to make a gift this year. If you need to change it at some point, that's possible, but please see what you can do. Help us and help us help you. What do you need from us in terms of support, right? That's always a beautiful question to ask in fundraising. I've been asking for things from you. What do you want to ask from me? How can this community be here for you? How can we serve you or support you? That reciprocity, that relationship is so beautiful. I want to go over a couple of ideas on how to recession-proof your finances. And it's May. We aren't in a recession. We might not be. But here are some steps that we might think about if you have the ability in your budgeting and your church finances to start thinking about this. Now is the great time to review your budget. Your budget was set in December and probably approved in January at your annual meeting, and you're now living into it. But maybe it's time to have your finance committee and your vestry revisit it and say, are there some non-essential things that we could maybe put off for a while? Maybe not spend until we know how the year is going to keep going. Consider pausing them now rather than committing to the spending plan if it's not going to harm us, right? Just set that money aside and put it into a reserve. Perhaps aim to set aside 3 or 6 months of operating expenses so that you can weather some weirdness around the end of the year, or if we should run into some time together, know that. And then as we're setting next year's goals, I think we should probably be conservative. It's not the year to say, we're in a 15% increase next year. So we might have to dwell with what we have and count on people making the gift that they have been making. It might not be the time to ask people to increase wildly, and we might not want to project that we want to be conservative. That doesn't say that we shouldn't be hopeful or we shouldn't create budgets that are match our need, but we should probably think wisely about what we can do. Strengthen our communication about the situation we're in. So the worst thing that we can do in church finance, I think, is for people not to know what we're doing with their money, why we're doing it, what's changed. They went to the annual meeting, they heard a plan. So if we're changing it, we need to communicate it. We need to talk about it and be transparent about what's being raised and what's being spent and if there are any changes. This is just basic ongoing work of transparency and accountability in the church. This might be a good year to implement an every member canvas where you one-on-one go to every household throughout the congregation and have these relational conversations and ask those questions, not just what can you do for us, but what can we do for you? This might be a good year to employ that. Also, every member canvases usually generate a little uptick in their giving because they're so relational and personal, and that might be good for you. So imagine implementing that this year. If you want to talk more specifically about that, Ken and Dina and I have lots of experience and information how to do that face-to-face fundraising. Ask us. Make certain that everyone who is making automated gifts, it has that recurring gift checked, so that when they go on vacation or when, it just ensures steady cash flow. It's a good way, good tool to have in our belt. We need always to be talking about our mission and reminding people about why we're doing what we're doing, how their gifts are a part of that, and how they can continue participating in that. So clarify and communicate our mission, and that will inspire continued commitment from our members. Asset-based community development, we talked about it a little earlier. It's about making a real inventory of everything that we have, including our relationships and partnerships, and knowing how to best utilize them. Maybe we have a relationship with a school, but we're not really engaging with it very much. What could we be doing more of? How could they help us? And don't think that just because we've signed on to help a school, they can't also help us in tough times as well. These relationships are reciprocal. And so count on our assets and our community to do that mutuality, even if it's just pointing us in the direction of resources or being a thought partner with us in yet more ways we can partner in the world. You never know, until you ask your partners for help, what they will be able to do for you. We should probably think about diversifying our income. If you're not already looking at your facilities, and how you can rent them out, not just office space or support or community groups, but other kinds of things. Therapists sometimes need office space, clinics, massage therapists, if there's a quiet spot, and it makes sense. Churches are good for that. Also, your parish hall probably has a kitchen, probably has tables and chairs, those community birthday parties, great tools. I helped a congregation that recently renovated, spent a lot of money in a capital campaign to rebuild their parish hall. And then we're like, well, what do we do with it? I'm like, generate some birthday parties in your neighborhood. Even go for the bar mitzvahs. It doesn't matter who's coming, right? Just rent out that space and get people in there. You have this beautiful space with like this $1 million view of downtown San Francisco. So go for it. People will want to rent your space. So be creative, get out there. Use events, grants, social enterprise ideas. Again, this is where nonprofit partners, community development agencies, even your local government might have ideas on ways that they might want to use your space or partner with you, have some money available to do that. Explore those ideas. Don't leave any stones unturned this year. We need to work on ourselves as well. So congratulations on it being May and you're already starting to think about your stewardship. Our stewardship committee team should be trained and formed. The better that they are and the earlier that can happen, the more formation we can do in our congregation, the more we can plant the seed and prepare for people, to be ready for what happens this fall. And reiterate, underline that we are blessed with an incredibly robust lay engagement policy in the Episcopal Church. It is not just the clergy, it's not just the vestry, it's all of us who participate in church. That is the benefit of being the kind of representational community organization that we are. It's a part of our polity. So embolden your laity. Let them know all the ways that they have to engage by sharing their good ideas. This is a good offer as well to say, this is what we're experiencing and what we might be experiencing. Who has wisdom and experience in dealing with this in their workplace, in their family, in their history, in their school? You never know unless you ask your congregation to help you solve a problem, what amazing skills they might have out there and things that they might want to share to help you. So ask, don't hide it. It's not a vestry only problem. It's all of us who are at the church. And then, adjust. As we go through this year and things continue unfolding, stay in tune, stay in touch, stay current with what's going on, look for new partnerships and opportunities. And maybe it's time to have your finance committee readjust your budget. It's mid-year. Maybe you need to do it again as the end of year approaches to cut out some expenses or make some changes while we still can. Changes made earlier in the year ripple out and benefit through the end of the year. So the earlier we do things, the better for our budgets. So adjust, maybe revisit it quarterly for a while and help. I realize that that's a big ask of our finance committee and our vestry, but these are some tough times. So let's give ourselves the best shot we have at staying in focus for the ministry that we need to provide for our neighbors. And that's really the goal here. We need to stay strong so that our neighbors who rely on us can be strong. That's the work. I want to end by sharing with you the TENS theme for 2025 and some of the resources that we offer going into our campaign season this year. Our theme is Tell Out My Soul, and it's focused on that news inside of us that is so good, we cannot wait to share it with the world. What is that news that you have that you can't wait to communicate it? Is it a mission? Is it a ministry? Is it a story? Is it a project? Is it a relationship in the church that you have? Is it a moment that you want to remember? What is it that you want to tell people about and be inspired by that? We have great tools for formation throughout the year. Weekly and seasonal reflections. Our seasonal reflections started in Advent and they go through Pentecost. Download those. They're great little tools, soup starter for congregations. We offer, a pledge card doesn't feel like it's a formation tool, but it offers that little chance to think about a planned gift. And one side is about our treasure, the other side is about our time and our talent. So you never ask for one without asking for the others. Ask, how do you want to be involved? What's a ministry that's really important to you? How do you want to get more engaged with the church? Ask those questions because it leads to yet more involvement and participation. We offer liturgical resources and offertory practices. So prayers of the people, prayers over the offering plates, in-gathering prayers. Those are great for the campaign period because it says it's a different season. We're doing something different right now. It's about this campaign and the work and the mission that we're doing. We offer you some sample letters from clergy, wardens, and committee members, and a thank you letter template that all use that theme and talk about the way we share our gifts. And so take a look at that. Take a look at how we communicate. If you send out letters or emails as a part of your campaign, we have some starter for you. You always get a logo and artwork in all the ways that we can share that. All of our materials are in English and in Spanish, and we give them to you in PDF so you can just download them and go with them, or in Word so that you can adapt them and snip them up as you like and put them in your bulletin or use them in whatever way you'd like. As you're moving into campaign season, think about your timeline. When's your kickoff Sunday? And start before that. So about 4 weeks before, start announcing the theme. Maybe that letter from clergy that talks about what our theme is, what we're doing. We sell banners and artwork and things like that that you can start putting up in the church, let people know that something's happening. About 2 weeks before your campaign, send that next letter that says it's coming. Here's our budget. Here's what we're doing with our mission. Here's what we're hoping for this year. That one usually comes from the wardens. This is a good reminder to test your donation website. Just send in a $1 donation, see if it goes through. I learned very uncomfortably many years ago in a nonprofit when I sent out an email that the link didn't work and that the process failed. And that was an expensive mistake. So don't do that. Test your model. It's really easy. Just make sure that a gift can go through and that all the autoresponders are up to date and everything makes sense. When it's time for your kickoff, hooray! Have everything ready to go. Another mistake I made once as a stewardship chair, forgotten to have something printed. I had lots of other things, but not one essential piece, the pledge cards. And so I started off kickoff Sunday by saying, well, we'll have your pledge cards next week. So it was a fake kickoff. That was not a good policy. So don't do that one either. Have everything ready to go. And if you're emailing it, if you're mailing it, if you have packets in church, all those things that you do, have it ready to go. And put other things in there besides a pledge card. If you have a little narrative budget, your real budget, your case for support or your brochure, any information you want to share about your stewardship campaign, put that in there as well so that it's a real pitch. People feel good about it. That's what I wanted to talk about today. As we move through your campaign, I want you to remember that we're here with you as you walk through week by week in your campaign. We have these weekly inserts for you. We have the tools for you to use, and you can always reach out to me as well. I read dozens of sample letters from folks, and I love that. So send me your stuff. I'll be there. I'll help you, and maybe maybe that's what we need. I love getting my red pen out. Finally, when it's all over and done, know how you're going to finish. Um, you might have to do some cleanup after your campaign, so know who is doing what, calling people whose gifts you haven't received but you were expecting. What's your policy for that or your process? I think sending a thank you note, and I accept email as a valid thank you form these days, but a personally written note goes such a long way to reminding people that their gift matters, that you noticed that it came in. You don't have to talk about the amount. In fact, you shouldn't. You just have to say thank you for participating. Thanks for making a gift this year. Finally, in January, after everybody's back from Christmas, pull your stewardship committee together one last time before you start focusing on next year's campaign and evaluate what happened. What did we learn? What would we like to do differently? What went well? What didn't go well? What did people think about it? Gather some feedback going into that meeting. If you have a survey, or maybe you just gather stories around the church. And likely, if you're in most Episcopal churches, people have let you know what they thought about the campaign without you even having to ask them. So bring those stories and say, what can we do better next time? And put that in a file so that if you're not on next year's stewardship committee, whoever is has something going into it to learn from. We have a whole set of materials on our website for how to do post-campaign evaluation, how to look at trends, how to analyze it, and figure out what just happened here and how do we do it differently. All right, friends, the secret password for this year is Luke 1:46, Luke 1:46. And that gives you access to the annual pledge campaign materials, everything you need to know for running your campaign. And of course, the rest of the website isn't behind a password. You can access our resource library, our webinar library, go to our next webinars, Sign up for them. They're all free and they are ready for you, supported by generous gifts from our members and our partner dioceses and our donors. So thank you to all of them for making all of this possible. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to pull us back into our group here. And I've been doing a lot of talking and I'm done for a minute. I'd love to hear from you with your questions, anything that you is on your mind, some ideas, anything that we covered that we need to go into more depth on. I'm ready for you. I hear, oh, some people just nodding off early. Okay, thank you, Kim. Have a fun confirmation service. And Martha, who had to leave early. That's great. Dan, I see your hand up.
Yes, first of all, hey, how you doing?
Hey, it's
It's
good to
been a
see
while.
you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. A few years back, I was acting as the development officer for Haiti for the Episcopal Church, working at church headquarters. I'm doing a lot of fundraising at that time, not parish level fundraising, but church wide for Haiti projects. And one of the things that the office was engaged with was the House of Bishops program called Project Resource, in which parishes and dioceses were receiving training on stewardship methodology and purpose. One of the things that came through Project Resource very strongly was a recommendation that a parish stewardship commission remain in place throughout the entire year and not just gin up and post Easter and then stand down between September and January. What is your thinking on that? That kind of gives kind of a professional to stewardship campaigning within a parish.
Yeah, thanks, Dan, for that. And thanks for the shout out to Project Resources, our friends in the College for Bishops. Great program, and they supply some really great tools. And I love that. I think here's what I think, is you're asking me to be honest. It would be lovely if we had a perennial stewardship committee that wanted to keep meeting. And in fact, I have met wonderful stewardship committees that are in place all year round. Um, if you've ever had the pleasure of working in stewardship with Phoebe Griswold, the wife of the former presiding bishop, she's in Germantown, Pennsylvania now. She chairs her stewardship committee and they meet every Tuesday night. Every Tuesday night. So they have a good thing going, and I love that idea. I also think it's a lot. I think it's a lot, it's a big ask of congregations to continue that. I think with a lot, if you have the resources, I think it's the best possible thing to do because you're continuing to offer that formation to the congregation year round. It's not just this thing that starts up, as you say, and then falls back and is really focused on the campaign. It's something that actually becomes a ministry and an offering of the church. And I think it is the greatest best practice. I also don't know a lot of congregations that can sustain that work throughout the year because the members of our stewardship committee are likely also on three other committees and doing all kinds of other work if they're in the sort of average Episcopal church. So I'm not saying no, I'm saying absolutely. If you can do it, do it. And we have resources year round to help you think about ways to continue that generosity and inject that formation into the congregation throughout the year. And if you can only call the group together to do the task, that's also fine. We want to make sure that that group is supported as well. Good best practice, though. And if you can meet every Tuesday night, God bless you. Dina, you came off mute.
I did. I do want to say that that Dan, if you wanted to talk a little bit, if that's something that St. Martin's in the Field might be considering, let's talk a little bit offline because there are folks in Maryland that have gone through the process and could give you some input. of using project resource and what that involves and how much it costs.
Good deal. Thank you. There's a question from iPad number 2. How do we organize effectively when our leadership is already stretched too thin? And fill in the blank with any committee. There are like the 12 people in every Episcopal church that do it all. And we are fortunate to have those people who say yes to so many things. And I know that we are stretched thin. The need is great, and people's free time is precious, and getting folks to say yes is not always easy. So, how do we organize effectively? I think that's the right idea right there. What are you asking people to come together to do? So, we have a whole TENS has a whole webinar and an article on running a stewardship committee. And it comes from our work with Bishop Dan Edwards when he was Bishop of Nevada, who really helps identify who should be on a committee and how they effectively run it. And one of his moments in that is to say, ask someone who knows how to get things done to be on that committee because they can likely organize a committee well. You don't want people to come together to waste their time, to burn through hours. You want a committee that is structured, a committee that knows its task, and that has, this is also, the finite part of time that often our committees work in. We want them to not burn out. We want them to say yes again to serving on stewardship and to continue doing that work. So I think that that's a really good thing. How are we efficient and effective? Good meeting practices, good follow-up practices. When you have a meeting and you've said Davey's going to do this and Dina's going to do that and Dan's going to do that, and Diane, just to make all the D's be active on this call, then, have follow-up notes. Remind people that that's what they signed up to do. And then that honors all the time. We don't have to start next committee meeting by saying, what are the things we forgot to ask people to do, right? So how do we share that time efficiently and do that work together? I think that's really great. I think also, learning some good group process facilitator dynamics. And a lot of people in our Episcopal churches are great small group leaders. Ask them to help you. How do you facilitate a group? How do you keep them on task? How do you deal with distractions? How do you keep the conversation inclusive and productive while not falling out of scope? Ask people who run Bible studies and book clubs and EFM. They know how to lead a small group really well and can probably give you some good tools.
Davey, if I could do two things in addition, everything you said, I want to underline, highlight, and be very excited about. What I notice in congregations is stewardship often attracts people who are not afraid of talking about money. And that's great. Or theology and money, or ministry and money. Great. There are some people who are your doers, like Davey is saying, who are project managers and organizers that you might be able to bring into this work if you tell them, we don't need you to do a ministry minute in front of everybody. We need you to organize behind the scenes. And that will be such an administrative gift because there are people who don't mind doing that, but they're afraid they're going to have to get up and talk about money or ask a person for money. And you can tell them, we've got that handled. We need you to do the organizing work. The other piece and be really clear about different roles or jobs, which there's also a resource on the TENS website about different roles. And I've pulled that up and used that with congregations because that gives people permission to be in the stewardship team at the way, in the level, using the gifts that God gave them in the way that they can do it, not trying to do all the different jobs. The other piece is I'm a big fan when I make spaghetti sauce of using prepared canned tomato products because I don't can my own tomatoes very often. and I season it myself. And I say that so that you remember to use the TENS materials that are already well prepared and high quality, because you may not be creating your own materials or growing your own tomatoes and canning them. And then season it. Season it how you like it. Add the things you like to add into that are really customized for your community. Enliven it and embody it in a way that makes sense for your context, and let the basic content be provided from either this year's TENS materials or past year's materials if you like them better. I think it's so much easier to season and add in or change. With the TENS materials, you could even remove things you don't like. Whereas with the spaghetti, you've got to just take the whole can, I think. So it's even a better, I've got to get a better metaphor maybe, but use those materials, because I think I'm watching a committee who spends a lot of time. They take a whole retreat to come up with their theme and their materials and their image. And that is, like 6 people spending 3 hours. That's a lot of time that is now devoted to creative things, which is fun. I like it too. However, there's already good content that you could take and adjust.
Thanks for that reminder, Dina. We have jobs, and Dina refers to the job descriptions document that we have on the TENS website. It identifies different roles you can take and gives people a firm or some boundaries. This is what your job is. This is what it doesn't have to be. Also, people who join a stewardship team should self-select. In a way, you might invite them and they might discern that. But I've worked with a church once that said every new member of vestry has to serve on stewardship. I'm like, oh, that's awful. What if they hate it? What if they hate asking for money or stewardship in general? What if this is like scary to them and you've just ruined the first of 3 years on the vestry for them? So, don't force people into this. It's not something for everyone. There are people who are called to stewardship. It's a ministry. There are people who aren't, and they're called givers. I love it. Any other questions? Any other ideas? Thank you for what you said so far. What I want to leave you with is that you're not alone. Um, Stewardship can often feel, especially in small congregations, like a lonely place to be and a hard job to do. You have a whole network with you and behind you. Um, Use our website. It's great, but also contact us. I love to be a thought partner. I get like the favorite part of my day is people calling me up and saying, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? That's great. We're here for that. Dina's here for that. Our other board members are here for that. Talk with us. Let us help you. You're not alone, and we really are grateful for the work you do in your congregations, for a church that needs you and a world that needs the church. You're an important part of that. So thank you for doing that. Dan's got his hand up.
Just a quick question. I'm at the TENS website right now. Okay, and going for the materials, where on the website should I be looking?
Look at the tab called Annual Campaign Materials,
See it?
and then you're going to
Okay,
see the 2025-26. It's going to ask you for a
got it.
password eventually.
Okay, I'm there. Thank you.
You bet. That was an
And
easy
if
question.
if anyone forgets the password, just reach out. It's fine. Don't be embarrassed. It happens even to me that I have to text Davey. Sometimes I'm like, wait, where did I put it? So just reach out. I wrote it down a couple places for us.
No, happy and easy. Well, friends in the Diocese of Maryland, have a good evening. Thank you for this, and thank you for all that you do. Dina, thank you.
Thank you, Davey. Thank you for being with us in this way. I want to point out how especially appreciative I am that you would consider teaching us about recession-proofing at this time. So many congregations are very hard hit in our area around federal jobs and federal funding, as they are all over. And that's a really tough time for us, and being so close to Washington. So thank you. That was really a nice surprise and useful information. It was very nice of you to provide that.
Well, whatever we can do now will help us
That's
as we
right.
do this.
All right, friends.
I'll
Thank
be sending,
you, Davey. I really appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Davey, thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Come visit us
Yeah.
in person
All right.
sometime.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a great evening.
Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.